I'm joined in studio by author Jackie Lange, and she's going to introduce us to her debut novel, The Seed Thief. Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nice to meet you too.
Now, you worked as a journalist for a very long time.
I did.
It's always a little bit stressful to have other journalists in studio. I feel like I'm being judged a little bit.
No, I'm the one being judged here.
So I want to talk about transitioning from a journalistic career. It's a very specific type of writing to writing a novel. Was that hard for you?
No, it was something I'd always wanted to do, and I had written a lot of other sort of non-fiction. I'd been in multimedia and in advertising. I've written scripts. I've written for television. So besides my journalism and magazine writing, I had done a lot of sort of creative making up of stories, and I always loved that. And this was just something that I really wanted to do. It was my life dream to write a book.
How long has this story been with you? I know you said it took 5 years to write, but I imagine it's been sitting with you for much longer.
Yeah, I would say probably about 10 years.
Wow.
Because the seed of the story, to stay in the metaphor.
No pun intended.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard to stay away from seed metaphors when you're talking about this book. But it started really about 10 years ago because I went to Brazil for a trip. I was actually going for a high school reunion. And I went to the part of Brazil that I'd never been to before because I was at high school in Brazil. So I knew the country, I knew the language. I thought I knew a lot about it, but I did not know Salvador, which is the northeast corner where this book really is set for the most part. It's set partly in Cape Town, partly there. So I went for a trip there and explored it, and with the reason in mind, which is that I wanted to find out about this very African part of Brazil. So I went there out of curiosity, and somehow when I got there, I thought there's a book in this, and that was really kind of where it started. But it was about 5 years before I really took up the pen and actually wrote it down.
Now introduce us to Maddie. She's the main character. She heads off to Brazil just as you did. Tell us about her story.
Yeah, Maddie is a scientist, and she is a botanist by profession. And she's on the hunt for a seed, a very rare seed. She works in something called seed banking. So she collects seeds in order to preserve them and freeze them in the seed bank. So she's an environmentalist, and she's on a mission for seeds. She doesn't want to go on this particular quest. She basically is tasked with finding a seed that is extinct now in Africa, where it's originally from, or a tree that's extinct. And the theory is that this tree might have been taken to Brazil along with people who were captured as slaves and taken to Brazil. So it may well have been nurtured and guarded there for a couple of centuries. And so even though the environment in West Africa, where it was from, has now been wrecked by strip mining, as it happens. Hopefully the tree still exists, but she has to go and infiltrate essentially a very particular community, a kind of a religious sect, actually, in order to find out whether this tree exists. Yeah.
And the seed is a cure for cancer.
A potential cure for cancer. So she's not. So she works for an institution which is about saving seeds and plant biodiversity. But there are other people who are also looking for the seed because of its potential, cancer-fighting properties. So there's Big Pharma also involved, and some other players. Not all of them above board. So initially, and Maddie is also an interesting person. She's got a lot of secrets and a lot of things that she doesn't really know about herself. So she thinks that she is a scientist and incorruptible and on quite a pure mission. But as she goes to Brazil and faces some of her past, she realizes that she's not quite as straightforward as she thought, and she doesn't actually know. She's actually blocked out some things about her past, which is what comes to the surface.
Now, when we talk about Maddie, has Maddie been inspired by anyone in your life, or maybe even some experiences you've had other than going to Brazil?
I don't. That's interesting. I don't know. I think she just kind of sprung up. Maddie kind of is her own person. I think we share a lot of things. I mean, I've written Maddie in the first person, so a lot of people think that she's me. She's not me, but we share some of our past. Or I should say, she grew up in a lot of different places. So she grew up between New York, Brazil, and South Africa, as did I. So I guess that laid the groundwork. She has sort of Catholic background, but she's now lapsed Catholic, stroke atheist. So I drew on some of my past, but she's very different from me also, and I'm no botanist. And in fact, I originally didn't even know that this book was going to be about seeds. It was going to be about the connection between Africa and Brazil, which is what really fascinated me. But the seed just became a sort of a metaphor for that, and for something that travels from one place to another and takes its sort of history with it, and then grows differently somewhere else, and what it retains and what it changes. And I just thought that was an interesting metaphor. So Maddie wasn't initially a botanist at all. So yeah.
Tell me about that connection between South Africa and Brazil. I mean, you've lived it, you've experienced it, and now South Africans, we're urging South Africans to pick up this book and read it. What do you hope they take away about that connection?
I guess sort of a commonality. I think the thing that really made me want to write about this is that not so many people know that there is such a strong connection. There are estimates range between 4 to 10 times as many slaves were taken to Brazil as went to the entire United States or North America. So that's a lot of people from Africa that were taken there. It's a very African, well, particularly Salvador. There's a lot of African culture, and it's just the most vibrant, amazing. And to me, what was amazing is that they've taken the religion and the culture of Africa. It still exists and it's nurtured and it's changed. Obviously, the language is Portuguese in Brazil. Everybody speaks the same language. But they've also kind of merged a lot of the Yoruba traditions with Catholic saints and traditions. And there's this just incredible, it's called candomblé, and it's the most incredible, I would call it, I guess it's a religion. Practice and way of life. It still exists. The Yoruba gods and goddesses still exist in a slightly different form. So there's a whole pantheon of, almost like a chorus of Greek gods, and they are still alive and vibrant because people believe in them and carry them, with them all the time and perform rituals for them. And I just found that so interesting, and I was amazed that more wasn't known about that. So that's really kind of what I hope to bring to people with the book.